The mail carrier froze when he saw me in the driveway, barefoot, gripping a shovel in one hand and a half-eaten sandwich in the other. I wasn't angry at him, just stunned by the letter he handed me. It claimed I'd built a luxury swimming pool in my backyard and owed the HOA $50,000. I live alone, grow tomatoes in old pots, and haven't swum since the 80s. Yet, according to the Pine Valley HOA, I'd constructed a shimmering aquatic oasis behind my garage without permission. That was just the start. The envelope had official HOA letterhead, a violation code, and a fine breakdown that felt like a mob shakedown. I sank onto my porch bench, tore into my sandwich, and stared at the number. $50,000 for a pool that didn't exist on land I'd owned for 35 years. My garage sat on a dry, uneven patch barely suitable for a kiddie pool. The only blue thing back there was a faded tarp covering hay bales to keep them dry. No water, no pipes, just dirt and dreams of a quiet retirement. I drove to the HOA office, a former rec center, now a maze of mismatched chairs and posters scolding about lawn height. I demanded to see the board. A woman with perfect hair and a smile sharp as a razor stepped forward. Margaret Voss, naturally. She waved my notice like it was a bad joke. "Mr. Harper, your unpermitted pool's right here in the photos." Her screen showed a blurry satellite image, a blue smudge behind my garage. "That's a tarp," I said, expecting a mix-up. She didn't flinch. "The fine stands unless you prove otherwise. Hearing's on the notice." She turned away, dismissing me. Outside, my neighbor Frank, a grizzled rancher, pulled me aside. "You're not the first. Margaret twists something on your land, slaps you with fines. Last year, she called Jim's barn a structural hazard, forced him to rebuild." My stomach twisted. I'd ignored HOA nonsense, paid dues, kept my lawn neat, but now they'd come for me with a $50,000 hammer. I wasn't backing down. That night, I checked the tarp with a flashlight. Dry hay, squirrels, no pool. My dog Scout watched like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. Morning brought a county clerk letter, a lien on my land. My hands shook. They weren't just fining me. They were threatening my home, my life's work. I made coffee, stared out the window, and pulled an old folder from my desk. Blueprints, maps, permits from my 40 years as a civil engineer. I designed entire neighborhoods, knew property law like my own heartbeat. Margaret wanted a fight? She'd get one. I'd fight with paper, proof, and the grit of someone who'd built sewer systems for cities. This wasn't about money, Anna Maria, it was about truth against her petty empire. At the county assessor's office, a dim building smelling of dust and polish, I requested all records on my parcel. The clerk, Betty, handed me a stack thick as a phone book. The inspection form justifying the lien lacked a licensed assessor's signature, just initials, dated a Sunday when the office was closed. The pool was confirmed by a grainy free map screenshot with a red circle around my tarp. Betty whispered, "Margaret's cousin worked here," pushed satellite assessments into protocol. My jaw tightened. Coordinated fraud, not incompetence. Back home, Frank shared stories. Margaret fined a widow for unapproved tulips, another for a hazardous mailbox. Her trick was vague bylaws twisted into fines too small for lawyers, but big enough to hurt. I dragged the tarp off, exposing bare dirt, and called a local news station. A reporter, Lisa, arrived, hungry for small-town scandals. I showed her the notice, tarp, lien, and dry ground. She filmed, interviewed Frank about his fine fence, and jumped on the dirt for the camera, declaring, "This pool is just hay and dust." Scout barked approval. The story aired, Lisa's jump going viral. Social media mocked Margaret's killer pool. That night, her black SUV crept past my house. She stormed up, heels clicking, face twisted. "You've humiliated the board." I pointed to the field. "You humiliated yourself, Margaret." I just showed the truth. Her face burned red. "This isn't over," she spat, nearly knocking over my mailbox as she sped off. Days later, a summons arrived for an HOA meeting. I went, ready for a showdown. The community hall smelled of stale coffee, its crooked flag mocking the solemn board. Margaret sat center, flanked by 4 members, including nervous young Tim. I stood, detailing the tarp, fake inspection, lien, and news clip. Murmurs grew. I asked Tim, "Did you inspect my land?" He fidgeted, glancing at Margaret. "I was told to sign, not ask." The room erupted. Neighbors shouted about tulip fines, bike citations, mailbox threats. Margaret's gavel was ignored. I slipped out, the chaos her own making. In my workshop, Scout at my feet, I studied my land's blueprint. A thin line marked a water main from the HOA's clubhouse crossing my field without an easement, a favor I'd allowed decades ago, unrecorded. I found the buried access hatch, installed a legal shutoff valve on my side, and turned it off. By noon, Margaret's voice echoed, raging about the clubhouse's dry fountain and toilets. I sipped coffee on my porch, Scout's head on my boot, as landscapers scrambled. Margaret marched up, accusing me of cutting their water. I asked for an easement. She had none. Drop the lien, fine, and apologize, and we'll talk, I said. She vowed legal action and stormed off. That night, an envelope appeared on my porch, on email from Margaret to her cousin Vince. Fine him into submission. I want that field. Call it a pool. I locked it in my safe, pure dynamite. Tim visited, confessing Margaret bullied him into signing blank forms, threatening his garage's permit. You're not scared of her, he said. I'm tired of being scared. This wasn't just my fight. Anna Mariette was for every neighbor silenced by her reign. At the county clerk's, I filed a grievance against the HOA and Margaret for fraud, lien abuse, and infrastructure misuse, including the email. Betty grinned. This will start something big. The clubhouse lawn yellowed, sprinklers sputtered. Margaret strutted, promising lawsuits, but whispers grew. My lawyer, Sarah, a retired prosecutor who despised HOAs, called it fraud. I canvassed neighbors, collecting stories, find trellises, flagpoles, cracked sidewalks. Sarah filed a suit, fraud, defamation, abuse, demanding the lien's removal. Margaret panicked, offering a quiet settlement. I pointed her to Sarah. Board members resigned, citing family issues. The county launched an HOA audit. Margaret called the sheriff, alleging I trespassed and damaged property. The deputy, familiar with her viral tantrum, checked my valve and papers, then said, I've waited years for someone to take her down. A court letter arrived. The lien was unlawful, the fine dismissed, an HOA audit ordered for possible embezzlement. News aired my story, showing the dry field and Margaret's meltdown. Neighbors honked, one leaving bottled water labeled Stay Hydrated, Hero. Tim found a USB in the clubhouse, unedited recordings of Margaret bragging about fake fines and targeting my land for a pavilion. In court, Sarah dissected the fraud, playing Margaret's voice plotting my ruin. Tim testified, voice steady, exposing her coercion. The judge ruled the lien fraudulent, ordered Margaret to pay damages, and dissolved the HOA board, recommending criminal probes. Margaret sat, deflated, power gone. Neighbors clapped outside court. Lisa asked for a statement. This wasn't revenge, I said. It was about standing firm. Margaret resigned. The board reformed under Tim. I helped redesign irrigation, ensuring no pipes crossed private land without consent. Kids called me pool guy, laughing. A gift appeared, a plastic pool with a duck and a sign. Caution, deep justice. I kept it, Scout drinking from it like a king. Margaret moved away, her house sold cheap. At a community barbecue, Tim thanked me for showing what standing up means. I raised my cup, staying seated. The fake pool was gone, but truth had built something real, a neighborhood free to breathe, rooted in justice, not rules.